If I'm such a danger, if I have to be blacklisted because supposedly my views defending American borders, or my views saying we have to win the war in Iraq, that we have to defeat radical Islamists who want to wipe us off this earth, if they're so threatening, you tell me, why is George Galloway, who is a member of parliament and more than that, a prominent radio talk show host in Britain. He has a show on 3 or 4 times a week. He is a prominent radical anti-war leftist. This is a man who personally kissed Saddam Hussein's ring. He went to Iraq and called him dear leader. He supported Saddam Hussein. He opposed the invasion in Iraq. He has supported Hamas and Hezbollah openly, nakedly. He even went to Syria, to that butcher, Bashir al-Assad, and addressed him and the Syrian parliament. This is a man who has openly cavorted and allied himself and hung around known terrorists and mass murderers. He calls Israel a terrorist state. He is a vicious anti-Semite. He supports every murder of Jews and of Americans. And yet he is allowed to peddle his hatred on British Airways. He's not banned from Britain. He's not banned from being on the air. Hell, he's not even banned from coming into the United States. But Michael Savage is banned for coming to Britain. Now, if they can square that circle, if they can say why yes to George Galloway but no to Michael Savage, then maybe we'll listen to them. But they can't. And that's the point. They're a bunch of liars, and they're a bunch of ideologues, and they're a bunch of haters. And that's what the left has always been. But they picked with the wrong guy. Because whether they like it or not, this has only made Savage stronger, bolder, and even more popular. And if he does show up on October 15th, he is going to give them a surprise like they've never seen. This is Jeff Kuhner, sitting in for the living legend Michael Savage on the Savage Nation. Savage.
The ridiculousness of Sacramento seems never ending. Find out how our politicians have screwed us lately and how you're getting screwed.
That's right. It's the John and Ken Show every Sunday afternoon from 1 to 3 on Talk 910 KNEW.
This is Jeff Kuhner from the Washington Times, sitting in for the living legend Michael Savage on the Savage Nation. The number to call is 1-800-449-8255, 1-800-449-8255. Is the Obama presidency imploding? Gary from Chicago, welcome to the Savage Nation.
Hello, sir. Thank you very much for having me on. I fully, absolutely, 100% believe that it's imploding, and this is exactly what I expected. And yet people within my age group, I'm 26 years old, and people within my age group, a little bit older and a little bit younger, some of them, actually, I'd say a lot of them still do not believe this. They still believe he's the Messiah. They still believe everything's going fine, and they make excuse after excuse of why things aren't going well and why, it's only been 8 months, give them a chance, blah, 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 blah.
Gary, let me ask you this. How old are you?
I'm 26 years old.
Yeah, you're 26 years old. Yeah, you sound like somebody in your 20s. I'm not surprised. And the reason why I'm not surprised is because essentially our youth have been brainwashed. This has been going on now for the last several decades. The liberals have had a deliberate program of taking over the public schools, taking over the universities, taking over our colleges, and they are now teaching literally their crazy left-wing ideas. They are the ones that are promoting gay marriage. They're peddling the myth of man-made global warming. They are the ones that are talking about America as the evil empire in the world, and basically we brought 9/11 upon ourselves. They are the ones that are preaching hatred for their own countries, for their own country. And so what you've been seeing among the youth is a form of self-hatred. Americans now, to me, you want to understand liberalism. Liberalism is a form of anti-Americanism at its core. A liberal is a self-hating American. He hates his history. He hates his country. He hates his system of way of life. He hates its capitalist ethos. He hates its sense of individual justice. He hates everything about it. He believes basically you were founded by slave-holding white men. And that's what liberals fundamentally believe, and that's what they teach. So the fact that now you have an African American in power, they think that's somehow a revolutionary in race relations. It isn't. We live in a colorblind society. The race of somebody is completely irrelevant. It should be irrelevant, and for the most part, it is. Today, race relations have never been better in the history of the United States. And let me make another statement. Having traveled all over the world, I can say this clearly and unequivocally. There is no other country in the world, I challenge any leftist or liberal out there, that has better race relations or has treated minorities better than the United States. Not one. And yet we are to apologize? Obama goes around the world apologizing to everybody. He goes to Cairo, he goes to Russia, wherever he goes. Honestly, I can't keep track anymore. He goes to Europe. He's always apologizing. For what? Tell me, for what? For creating the freest, most decent, most prosperous, most just society in the history of the world? We're apologizing for that? So no, I'm not surprised that many young people who voted for him, they are so brainwashed with socialism, so brainwashed with Marxism, they so hate their own country. No, they will excuse and rationalize everything this man does. But that's not the point. The point is that people who pay taxes, people who have to work for a living, people in the middle class, independents, people in the heartland, people are now finally waking up, and they are now asking themselves, are we losing our country? And many have now concluded yes. They are now seeing this man for who he is. He is no Messiah. You know what he is? He's a typical corrupt, stupid liberal. That's all he is. And his numbers are going down, and his presidency is going down. This is Jeff Kuhner filling in for Michael Savage on the Savage Nation.
Michael Savage. Afternoons 3 to 7 on Talk 910 KNEW and online at 910KNEW.com.
This is Jeff Kuhner from the Washington Times, sitting in for the great Michael Savage on the Savage Nation. Michael is off today, taking a much-needed day off, but he will definitely be back, batteries recharged and ready to go. Michael, if you're out there listening, I just want to thank you once again for the incredible honor and privilege of just sitting into your giant, trying to sit in and fill your giant shoes. You are not just, I believe, the heavyweight radio champion of the world, but I also believe in many ways you are a very kind and decent man, and I want to thank you for this wonderful opportunity. It is just such an honor and a privilege to speak to all of you out there in the Savage Nation. We got some nice political stories I want to talk to you about for this half hour. You can go to michaelsavage.com to read some of them, both on Nancy Pelosi and Charlie Rangel. And really, my friends, I think what is now starting to happen is as Obama's presidency slowly is imploding and as his poll numbers drop, it is not just the socialism and the incompetence that people are reacting to, but they're reacting to something I think even more visceral and in many ways even more dangerous. And that is the massive corruption that is now occurring on Washington, D.C. We saw it under the Clintons. It was very bad. We saw it under George Bush. It was also very bad. But there is now a level of arrogance and a level of hubris that, to me, is almost unprecedented. They truly now believe that the Democrats, are a ruling elite who are entitled to run this country and ram any piece of legislation that they want, whether you like it or not, right down your throats. And so as Obama's poll numbers drop, as the American people now slowly but surely turn against government-run health care, the Democrats are now in a panic. My sources on Capitol Hill have been telling me they are now concerned that maybe the public option, which is the bitter pill, the poison pill, that will destroy American health care as we know it and bring about a single-payer health system, that the public option is now in very serious jeopardy. They are seeing town halls all across this country. They are seeing angry Americans, they are seeing tea parties, and they are seeing protests. And they are now seeing conservative America wake up from its knees and now stand up and defend our fundamental rights and liberties. And as this is going on, the Democrats, for the first time since they got their election in November of 2008, are afraid. They are genuinely afraid. They now believe that maybe their great victory, their crown jewel, nationalized medicine, socialized medicine, is going to slip through their grasp. And so the thug, Nancy Pelosi, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, to me, one of the most revolting politicians I have ever seen. Not just because I disagree with her views. There are many people whose views I disagree with. I don't take Russ Feingold, senator from Wisconsin. Yes, he's a hard left-winger. I don't particularly care for any of his opinions. But what to me is particularly disgusting about